The Torah, the Pentateuch, instructs the Jewish people, you have to be holy. You have to be sacred. How does one attain holiness in this world? Very difficult. It's even a difficult term to explain. Does it mean to be holy, to be a hermit someplace without looking into what's going on in the world? I don't think so. I want to say that to be holy means, first of all, to have respect, to have a sense of awe, admiration for certain things. I remember reading about a young lady that went on a trip with her parents to Europe, and they visited the home of Beethoven, that great composer, that genius, according to some, the greatest musical genius that ever lived, Beethoven. And she went into the room, the guide showed her the room, showed her the piano that Beethoven used. Well, when she saw that piano, she sat down and gave the best rendition of piano playing that she had studied. And she was a student of piano, and she did marvelous rendition. And she turned to the guide and said, I imagine that every great pianist in the world that visits this home certainly wants to see and play this piano that Beethoven used. Well, said the guide, not really, About 2 weeks ago, Paderewski, the great Polish pianist, was here. And when he came into this room and he saw the piano, he just stood there firm. And I asked him, are you going to play the piano? And he said, no, I'm not worthy of playing the piano that Beethoven used. So I tell you, maybe you should have a little more respect. If you want to be holy, if you want to be a special person, appreciate what there is in this world. Really appreciate and realize that there are great things in this world that you have to admire, that you have to aspire to, but that you are not there yet. To be holy means that you have to be ready to give of yourself, to contribute to society, even if it hurts. There are two mountains that are very special in Jewish tradition and biblical tradition. One is Mount Sinai, because there is where God revealed his will. The Ten Commandments, the Torah, the Pentateuch, that came from Mount Sinai. So that was very important. That's a very important mountain. There's another important mountain, and that's called Moriah. Moriah in Hebrew. What happened to Moriah? When God told Abraham to take his only son and to offer him as a sacrifice, that was on Mount Moriah. Abraham took his son, and at the last moment, when he's about to execute the offering, an angel came and said, don't do it. Many have said, why is it that God is the one that told him to do it, and an angel said, don't do it? Well, not to kill somebody, anybody can say that, an angel too. But to go and make an offering, only God can say that. So he didn't do it. And the great lesson is that God does not want human sacrifices. God wants you to live. Now, which of the two mountains is more important? I would think, to begin with, probably Sinai. To this day, we live by the Torah. But it isn't so. We don't even know where Mount Sinai is exactly. There are several mountains in the area. We don't know which is the one from which the Ten Commandments were issued. We don't know that. And there's no sanctity to any of the mountains. It was sacred at the moment of the giving of the Torah. Afterwards, goodbye, no more. Yet Moriah is sacred to this day. As a matter of fact, the Beit HaMikdash, the temple in Jerusalem, was built on Mount Moriah. What is the difference between Mount Moriah and Mount Sinai? I heard this for the first time by a Dr. Klepfish. This Dr. Klepfish was the principal of a Jewish Academy of Study in Panama. I don't know if it's an original thought of his, but I heard it from him for the first time. And he said, you know the difference? In Mount Sinai, God gave. In Mount Moriah, man was willing to give. And that is what is sacred. When you are willing to give, you don't have to give your life. You have to give your effort. You have to give your conscience. You have to give your attitude. You have to give your love. You have to give your respect. That's what you have to give. If you want to be holy, you must know that you have to give a contribution of yourself. That is what really counts. Well, to be holy, I mentioned already, doesn't mean that you're going to be a hermit. It doesn't mean that you're going to live in some monastery, 10 miles away from civilization over a mountain where you don't see another human being except once in 10 years. No. To be holy means to face the world the way it is and yet not fall to temptation. To be holy means to accept reality, but be able to distinguish between what has value and what does not have value. Nowadays, you can manufacture many things, even things on television, picture that never existed, you compose it in some way. You have to be able to differentiate. You can't say, I don't want to live in this society. I'm going to get away from this kind of licentiousness, whatever is going on in this world with the lack of definition of sex and God knows what. No. To be holy means to live in this world, but to be able to confront every deviation. To protest, it means that you have to stand for what are the true principles, the authentic principles. Are you ready to do it?